Time now for some more headlines. Welcome back to Newsmax Now. I'm John Bachman. The NFL upholding Tom Brady's 4-game suspension for his part in Deflategate. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell says Brady destroyed his cell phone before meeting with investigators. That's a no-no. Brady was punished for his role in deflating footballs in the AFC Championship game against the Indianapolis Colts. That victory landed the New England Patriots a spot in the Super Bowl. Brady could still take his case to a federal appeals court. Authorities in Northern California are now confirming that they found the body of a missing 8-year-old girl in a trash bin. Madison Middletown was last seen on Sunday around the apartment complex where she lived with her mother. Police have also arrested a teenage boy in connection with her death. He also lives in that same apartment complex. The stepfather of one of those two boys who went missing off the coast of South Florida says they were supposed to stay inside the inlet. They're not supposed to go out in the ocean. The Coast Guard found the capsized boat belonging to Perry Cohn and Austin Stefanos just 2 days after they went missing. The Coast Guard says they are not giving up yet, and they are focused now on an area of ocean between Jacksonville and Savannah, Georgia. In West Virginia, a female escort says she killed an attacker in self-defense after he tried to rape her. And now it turns out that attacker, 45-year-old Neil Falls, might have been a serial killer who targeted sex workers. Police discovered handcuffs, weapons, and a container of bleach in the trunk of Falls' car. Boston, Massachusetts will not be hosting the 2024 Olympics. The city's mayor refused to sign a contract that would have made that city responsible for cost overruns. One sports writer says Los Angeles is now the leading candidate to get the Summer Games. And a family of treasure hunters finally hits pay dirt off the Florida coast. Rick and Lisa Schmidt and their kids found $1 million worth of gold coins. They recovered the coins from a Spanish ship that sank 300 years ago. And those are your headlines. All right, right now we want to bring in Phil Kerpen. He is the president of the group American Commitment. Phil, thanks for being with us here today.
Hey, my pleasure.
All right, you have a new article about this Senate amendment that could, you say, destroy the value of your car when it comes time to trade it in. Quote, the Senate may vote soon on an amendment by Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal, you call him Dick, that would make it illegal for dealers to sell any car with an open recall. Now, Phil, GM has recalled tens of millions of cars. We also have the Takata airbag recall, which has affected everybody, including Ferrari. And while this sounds like a good idea in principle, I highly doubt that the feds could keep track of this massive amount of cars currently being recalled. So what would this actually do to the used car market, which has become even more important over the last few years?
Yeah, well, there's a huge problem with what Senator Blumenthal is proposing, and that is that if you make it illegal for a dealer to sell a car with an open recall, and we've got tens of millions of cars with recalls that can't be closed because the parts are simply not available to close out the recalls, that means that the dealer who can't sell your car can't take it as a trade-in from you. And so this will destroy the value of trade-ins for millions of Americans, including people, by the way, who decide they don't want to be driving around a car with an open recall. They'd rather go trade it in. They can't even make that decision if the dealers can't turn around and resell it. And so this is really bad economically, and it also could be really bad for people who have those safety concerns about cars with these open recalls. So it's an example of Washington doing something that sounds good without thinking through the consequences.
Right, and you highlight the fact that not every recall out there is a potentially fatal flaw. Things like stickers, safety stickers falling off of cars are often the subject for recalls. You also point out the federal government has made motor vehicles the most regulated consumer products in America, and the current recall system has room for significant improvement, but not this type of improvement.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of the recalls have very little to do with safety. So, for instance, there have been recalls for misprints in the owner's manual. Now, if your car is under recall because of a misprint in an owner's manual and the new manual is not available yet, it's pretty crazy to say that car can't be resold and to make someone wait potentially weeks or months until the new manual is available. And so this idea of just prohibiting sales of any car with an open recall is deeply flawed, even if for someone who thinks for true safety issues you ought to take cars out of the stream of commerce. Now, in terms of the improvements that I'd like to see, there are two things that I suggest. First, there ought to be two different tiers. There ought to be the serious safety issues, the stuff where there's an imminent danger, where you ought to get an immediate notice and have to take immediate action on it. And then there should be these more sort of minor issues should have something else that's doesn't look the same, it's not called the same thing, so we don't just get numb to recalls and have a big pile of them on the table, which I think is what's been happening to all of us lately.
I have to agree with you.
And the other thing is, I think the dealers should have to disclose open recalls, but they should still be allowed to sell a car for someone who's okay with it.
And that's a good point. Disclosure can help out a lot of things, and you make a good point as well about us becoming numb to these recalls because there are so many of them. Phil Kerpen, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Have a good one.
All right, well, some concerning news there. We'll see what comes of that. Meantime, Donald Trump isn't going away. The media and his critics say he doesn't have a plan. Well, he does. In fact, he wrote a whole book that he says will make America great again. Trump's bestseller is called Time to Get Tough. It outlines Trump's plan to roll back Obama's policies, secure the border, deal with China, terrorism, and much more. Right now, Newsmax has a free offer for this book. Just go to newsmax.com/TrumpBook and get your free copy today. Go online, avoid what the big media are saying, and get Trump's plan directly from him. When we come right back.
I actually think I'm a pretty good president. I think if I ran, I could win. But I can't.
No, Mr. President, you can't. But he says he would win. Could he really win another presidential election? And also see the craze that is sweeping across Africa, inspired by President Obama.